So today's video is with a Spanish coach, Sven Pierre. He's had a lot of experience working in a lot of countries. He's had multiple roles again, like a lot of our guests, and it's a really insightful podcast. So he shares a lot of his knowledge of what football is like in the countries he's worked at, what his own methodology is, what his own journey was, how he his methodology in scouting players. So it's a good, I would say, learning piece. So go ahead and enjoy it. So today I'm with Sven Pierre, who's quite a renowned coach. He's worked since he was 18 as a coach, worked in 7 countries across 4 continents, also has a slight connection with Paulo Menezes, who's coached in India. I'm super excited to know about his journey. And Sven, I look forward to discussing football with you. How are you?
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. First of all, I congratulate you for this initiative, and I hope in a few months we'll meet again and it grows and grows and grows. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Let's kick it off by understanding you've achieved so much in the game, but how did it start? What's your journey been like in football?
Well, my coaching journey, of course, as a kid, everyone started football because of the ball, no, more than even for the game. We start because we like to play the ball, we like to score goals, and then through that, I played football in my hometown in the north of Spain. And well, at a certain point, I think like everyone, when you are like 17, 16 years old, you start to think what you want to do in life, what you want to live from. And at that time, my only passion, to be honest, was football. So I started to think what I could do related to football. I was thinking journalism. I like it, the journalist articles, the media job. And but I always have this thing of coaching thing. Like I like it. So many coaches in the way they talk, in the way they express the information they give, but I never have clear how they did arrive there. Like no one explained me how they become a coach. So that some of them they were former players. A little bit, but you don't know what is actually their job besides of choosing players. So I started to get curious about that. In my hometown, there is a coach who was like at that time well, it's not from my hometown, but the family is from my hometown. So it was Jabo Irureta. He was coaching in Deportivo de La Coruña at that time, playing Champions League and things. So I started to look in him, and I started to look some other coaches. Then through my family, I found out that there were some license, that they were, like there were some formation specifically for the coaching. So I jumped to, well, I started coaching without the license, to be honest. The first year, I started coaching like boys of 11 years old. And after that year, I said, yes, I like, I went to the training, I went to the matches, and it started to become like the main thing was everything thinking about what to do on the game. So after that, I took my first license. It was back in 2011 or 2012, and from that we move forward till today.
And today you are the coach that you are, and I'm sure you're glad that you chose coaching over journalism because what a profession it is. Now, can you describe your coaching methodology?
Well, yes, I have been influenced by a lot of people. I mean, because my first step as a like let's say out from what your coaches teach you, like more when you went to the coaching license, especially at the beginning, because it was the main source of information at that time. I have one teacher who called Mikel Echarri, which is he have been teacher of Unai Emery, Arteta, all these sort of Spanish North coaches. And with him, I start to look to the game in another way, no? Like out from the technical side, I start to look more in the tactical side and how we can have influence on that. I will tell you that from that, I start to think more as tactical improvement or decision making improvement, like as a faster way to improve a team and improve a player. Because through all this period, mostly the coaches that you have and the coaches that you see, they were too much focused in technical and physical side, in very like in a clear split between what is the physical side and what is the technical side, but not too many information about the game, like it's the dynamic of the game, and not too much integration of each element of the game. So I started there. I started to focus more on the tactical side, what we could improve, what we could use, no? Instead to change the player, what the player has, what is the capacity, the real capacity of the player, and not try to force him to be something that he's not. Then after that, I finished my two coaching license. I moved on to Madrid, to the university that belongs or have a partnership with Real Madrid. There, I start to see the sport like more in a human vision, also like behave, no, like a people, like people who behave in certain way,
Right.
and they need a context, no, like we as a human being, and I bring you to this side because I want to explain from where is coming more or less my ideas that are from. We are beings that behave in certain way because we live in certain context. So I believe that the training is the same thing, like you need to create context from the from the mental side to the tactical side, but it's all about to create habit and context. I studied in Madrid, and then my how to say, my last point, and I think the point where I have more influence in is when I was studying Madrid at that time, and one teacher from the Portuguese university came. He called Luis Vilar. He was a methodological expert. He actually works in university and also in media. So he really understands the game in a deep way. And from him, I start to understand that many things that we're doing at that time in Spain or in the area that I was, they were not really having an influence on the player. So I believe in global methodology, let's say, like more played time. And I believe in that the exercise should be a way of leading the players through the exercise, that the exercise should have many components that represent the game. Okay. It means that you cannot limitate the options that the player have, like you should train just like here, all the passes go here, or we need to play a wall pass mandatory. No, you want to push this kind of action, okay, give a double, if we get a double goal, a double score, if they go through that way, or create certain spaces, no, for if you don't want the players to have too much time, instead to say like one touch, two touch, okay, create the space that it will bring you to play like that. So more than just in the message, because I think probably you have the same situation that many times you think if we train this, or I think we're training this, why we don't play like this? And many times I think it's because we talk more about that rather than to do it. And as a human being, you learn doing, not talking. Most of us, we know what is good to eat. We know what to do is good to do in almost every aspect of our life, but we just add it to us when we take the habit and we do it.
I think there's a major takeaway over here because we have all, I'm sure every coach that exists has faced this situation where they train something but it's not being executed in a match. And it's great. I'm sure I'm going to be using this where you keep everything in a match like situation and then try and make modifications there. Absolutely. And I am also quite proud of you that you were courageous enough to actually leave your comfort zone. Being from Spain, you've coached in Portugal, in China, Georgia, Ghana, USA, and Lebanon. So, what did you do to understand and adapt to the culture when you went to coach at those places?
Well, yes, really, really different. I think even my first impact came from. I'm from a small a small town in the north of Spain, like 60,000 people. So I moved to Madrid, like it's around 6-7 million people, plus the people who are not actually registered in Madrid, but they still living there. No? So we could say that a city with millions. I think football, no matter the knowledge you have, I think the most important thing is to understand the culture, because as I mentioned before, we are people with some behaviors and with some beliefs. No, I guess like if I go to India, I need to understand many things that are from football to reach the information I want to have to put the emotion on the information, right? We mentioned before that sometimes you practice something in the training, but then you don't execute in the match. It's also because in the training maybe there is not the same emotion. So how do you create this emotion? So well, I going more into your question. For example, my first impact with another culture was Portugal, which is really close from Spain, but let's say that they have some differences in terms of like I think people are have more the sense of community and have this sense of belong to the club maybe or I don't know. For example, in Spain, it's important to the social part of people, of course. But in Portugal, I remember that one of the words that I learned first in Portuguese was dining. No, like we go to dinner. We go to dinner. So I remember that at that time the club was putting a lot of effort on that, who asked to have certain part of the week out from the club. So I think in Portugal I was lucky because I worked with some inside of the technical staff. There were some coaches, like they said, old-fashioned coaches, no, and Bastos Lopez, which was a former Benfica player, and I have another assistant coach who was more the new school, let's say. So I could see the both sides of the methodology, but especially you could also understand that the players' feelings. No, in Portugal there is a lot this one-on-one player. There is more tactical knowledge. You go to see the schools, and the players with 8-10 years old, they know a lot about the game. You know, about the positioning, about the certain movements. And so it demands you much more as a coach. I think Portugal demands you, like, you need to give a clear information because the players understand. He knows. So you cannot make a sort of explanation that is not really clear. They know and they demand the information. From Portugal, I move on to China. In China, obviously, the way of learning and teaching is completely different. Because if I tell you that in Portugal there is a lot of influence of the African colonies and also about the especially Brazilian players, so where you can see a lot of self-initiative, you can see a lot of imagination, creativity. In China was completely the opposite. I want you to give me the training, I will execute the training you give me. Right. So instead to work on more the decision making, like this freedom of decision making in China, you need to force to people to think. You need to make people like really bring a critical way to what is going on, right? I mean, if you cross 10 times and the cross is not going well, okay, you need to reflect. I cannot execute for you. I cannot think why your teammate is not arriving on the right time. I mean, I need you to think. So that's from my perspective in China, is like as younger you take the group, the age group, easier was to implement these ideas. And even I was surprised that I have seen kids at that time, like with 8 years old, much more level than people with 15, because probably they are not into the system where the leader or the coach give me the information. That's
Perhaps
what I
they are
was.
conditioned to a dictatorial approach, so maybe that's why the younger ones are more fresh with
Yeah. Sometimes the younger ones, they see older people even out from football, but in other sport making certain kind of exercise, and they look to them like what they are doing. Right. But it's true that I think like in every education system, sometimes you arrive to one level where you do things, but you don't know even why you're doing, and that's what I felt in China. I mean, and I think the potential is higher than maybe people think because of the amount of people there are, and because physically a lot of people have good conditions. I mean, they have plenty of sports, no? Like badminton, ping pong. Like you see people running all the time in the schools, and so actually the physical condition is good, but I think sometimes football is this cultural side. No, they didn't find the way or the methods that fit on them.
Right.
I think,
And
but
and and what about Georgia, Ghana, USA, Lebanon?
Georgia, I think Georgia was a good step for me in terms of like individual player. They are so focused in the individual quality of the player. And for me, coming from a place where we're talking about the position game and everything is so collective, was a good experience in terms of like recover this passion for see the players who can do something by itself and they can instead the context they adapt to the context, they make the context adapt to them, like they go the opposite way around. They try to shoot from far, they try to take the one-on-one that nowadays people don't want. So for me it was a refresh.
Right.
Even I can see last day I received one video of the club I was working and I saw some young teens, and I have seen an amazing outside pass of one kid of he must be around 13 or 14 right now. And I said, how he saw this pass really? Because it's this kind of things we lack in other places.
Yeah.
So now you have example of Kvaratskhelia in Napoli, but I'm not surprised, like being there and talking with people there. I'm not surprised that they will come up some players like him in the following years.
Okay. And what about Ghana?
Yeah, and about Ghana, I would say Ghana is a good country in terms of what the African difficulties is. Like it's a country where it's quite peaceful and people live well. Let's say, like I think most of the Ghanaians that if they hear some of them, they can tell you that they love their country, they love to live there. So what is Ghana style? It's a bit like a street style in terms of like short pass, because they play with the small goals, no? So many times they don't have these shooting actions, and what they have a lot is this short pass combination, and they love that. What happened when you bring them to the performance or to the training? There are two difficulties that are the intensity.
Right.
Even they have the physical conditions. Sometimes they don't like to keep the training like really intense. They like to relax, and sometimes you need to push them from that side of you can do more.
Correct.
And I will say sending high level of imagination, to be honest.
Okay.
Physicality and technically very good players. Just sometimes I think the mentality in Ghana, I feel like sometimes you see some players and you see this boy could do much more, and you see that not just the players that I coach, but in other things. And it's funny because being in Ghana, I have seen a lot of African players coming, for tournaments of for clubs or trials or whatever. And it's funny how in the West Africa, every country is a little bit like different since the mentality to the quality. Malian players, for example, Mali people, they like a lot the ball, the technique, the juggling, everything.
Right.
Nigerian players are more aggressive, tough, like good strikers, like it's happening now with Osimhen in Napoli also. Like these competitive people. I don't know, because of the conditions of life or something, but they have something that you when you see them you like as a coach is really attractive. And Ghanaian is a player like very loyal, I would say, very respectful, and a player who love the game and appreciate when you give them you make certain improvement of them. To be honest, in this side is very easy to manage with Ghanaian players, because they see the coach as a father.
Yes.
The
Quite a
more,
interpersonal relationship is big there. And what about USA?
and in USA, I have been for a short time. I have been there. I have the chance to sign there to stay longer. But I think in USA, and it's interesting now with all this movement that is coming in MLS and with Messi move to USA.
Yeah.
I think in USA they are coming from very physical and very individual sports, or a sport that American football, the hockey, the basketball, where is a little bit the approach of basketball of NBA, I would say, to the football, no, where the individuality is really important, and I think the collective message is much more difficult. The same thing that I think in Spain or in Portugal or in China even, the collective thing is really important. I think in USA you need to go there by one, like to find the like it's a little bit football in general, but I think there is a little bit more. No, in football, I think it's a collective sport, yes, but the approach many times is individual approach.
Yeah.
Because the player at the end of the day demands from you different phases, demands from you an improvement. Like I'm happy that we're winning, that the team is winning. It's okay, but I need something for me. No, so I think it is. And in Lebanon also is a little bit like this. I think in Lebanon the quality of the player is much better than people can imagine. But I think what I learned in Lebanon is that the player at the end of the day he demands something apart from you.
I get it. And we will go into more of your time in Lebanon because you were very, very successful over there. But why I was really nosy to know every country is because I think you've really given a fantastic overview of what football is like over there. But those are the positives. Are there any challenges you faced as a foreign coach coaching in another country?
Yeah, a lot
What
a
are
lot
the
of
main
challenges. I think the most obvious one can be the language. Because it's true that, for example, in Portugal, I learned Portuguese fast. It's quite similar to Spanish, so it was easy. But in China, for example, even I learned the Chinese for the training. I think the language builds how you think. So how is your vision of what is going on? As long as you don't know the language of the person, you will have always a barrier in the level of how he built not what is happening, what is the story that he make of what is happening. So through that, I think the language is a barrier. I mean, like in China was a barrier. In Georgia, the language is tough, and even once again, I make the effort for study the training things. Is difficult because sometimes even during the training you can see the players talking to each other. Sometimes it's not in good terms, let's say. You can lose many interactions between the people who surrounded you. In Lebanon is the same. They speak Arabic, so even in Lebanon the level of English is very good, and if it's not English, it's French. But I think you will lose small details, small interaction between people, and then also the reality of life. I mean, let's say for the background of each of them, I think you need to show the interest for people. No, I think it's a very human job, and if you just want to come with your ideas, I came from the Spanish Federation or whatever that it is, that you think that you are, you will crash, because not the Spanish Federation, not experiencing I don't know what, they don't care about your past, they do care about your present and what you add in. So I think like I didn't born, for example, in Ghana. So for me, it's really difficult sometimes to understand all the difficulties that people pass through. I feel I'm a privilege in many aspects. I born in Spain. I was very privileged by that in many aspects that I don't even reflect it until I saw the life of many people. So I think in Ghana, one of the things I did very well, I think, is to live more with people from the country. Have more friendship in the country, to eat what they eat, to go where they go, and to listen the music they listen, and I think this is the approach that I want to follow in the next years. Like not to think that much in what I have, not to think like, okay, what is in front of me. Like don't close your eyes and look at what you have, because maybe you don't like because it does not look like the same as you had before, but that's an incredible process, because usually I think, for being very clear, I think when you arrive to any new place, you have 1-2 months where you disagree with many things, so maybe you feel like not comfortable, and after that I think you flow because this is the only way to really enjoy, and to enter like 100% in the experience.
The key over here is immersing oneself in the culture, from what I understand. And also, you're very good with your English, so I'm sure that helped. But now, coming to the most successful period in Lebanon. So, recently you won the Lebanese Super Cup with a
Yeah.
reputed club in Lebanon. So, what was the experience like, and what do you think were the key elements that made your team successful?
Well, I think there are many keys, but I will say starting from the players. At the end of the day, I think the players are the ones who play, and are the ones that I'm not going to take even a piece of the credit of the success, because I really believe that the quality of the players and the behave, no, the humbleness to accept certain moments. I think this is the key point. A part of that, I think that the technical stuff we have, it was really really strong and really committed, like the relationship, the human relationship between the member staff and the players, the connection was really good. I'm not going to say that we didn't pass through some difficulties, like I think is normal,
Mhm.
but I would say, like as you mentioned before, Paulo did the things really well in terms of of decision making. I think sometimes in football, it's not just the knowledge, it's not just the experience, but is the key moments to take certain decisions.
Okay.
And I think like through the leadership of Paulo, the decisions were really good. And I think this is the key point. I think when one team works like with a daily short-term targets,
Yeah.
I think the success is sure, because it didn't look like such an easy as I would say at the beginning in certain aspect, but everything came to the right moment.
And at that same club, 12 out of 23 players went on to play for the Lebanese national team. That's quite a big achievement, actually, because that's like half your squad basically has gone on to become successful. So what was put in place for you for them to achieve this?
Well, I think it helps a lot that the beginning of the season was really really strong in terms of results, but also in terms of game. I think in some periods maybe were that really difficult, like pre-season and beginning of the season, where maybe very new players, some of them young players, usually takes more time to work. But I think we won the Super Cup, and after we started the league with 3-0 the first match, and then 2-1 in with our biggest opponent, the Ahead. And that point, I think, show to people that actually there are many potential players like for the national team in our team. And this is from the youth players. I would say that they are very skillful, they have potential, they have the right conditions, because you can teach many things about the game, but at the end of the day, if you cannot put a long pass with the right technique, or you don't have the physical capacity to sprint at a certain level, it's difficult.
Yeah.
So these boys, these young boys, they have, because many of them, they are lower than 24 years old in the squad, and the experienced players, which they left the national team at the time. There were some situations that they left the national team, they came back, and the performance was really good, because some of them, both of our captains, they are central defenders. One of them can play as a fullback, but also he was playing at that time, beginning of season, as a central defender. They came back, both of them, and they scored with the national team, and the performance were so good. So I would say that people in the club, on the team, they believe they can do it in the national team. Like, they can go to the national team, they can one time, they can go much more than one. So I would say that's in the Super Cup and everything.
Yeah. No, yeah, there was a little internet issue, but yes, you did cover it for sure. And
Yeah. So I was saying,
yeah.
right players and right coaching to put in the right places. But yes, and an amazing strong beginning of the season. This is the point.
And your player development magic continued in Ghana. So you've been successful in promoting players from Ghana to go on to teams in Europe, and some of them have even played for the Ghana under 20 team. So can you elaborate on what was happening there?
Well, in Ghana, one of the main things that you need to do as any club, of course, besides of the results of the day by day, you need to develop the players in order to send them out, no? Because many of the income that the clubs receive is from the selling of players, and you need to accept that maybe the clubs are going to put more effort on young players than in older players. Maybe the clubs they're going to look you to have results individually in order to the player be self. So of course, if you are talking um, about football market, the best position you can have is to play in national team. Especially in African countries, became something really important that even in Ghana now, the national team, the youth teams of the national team, they train much more than they did before. You know, like they bring some people from, for example, the coach of the under 20 is from Belgium, and you know they bring people who have more structure organization. What they're trying to look from the national teams is organization. So for us as a club, it become really important that our players are going to this campus and all these tournaments with the national team. Sometimes even we lost players for months, you know, like we didn't see them because they were with the national team, because at the end became really, really important. So yes, I think sometimes in Ghana, the difference between a player who is a regular player and a player who can do it or they can make it in Europe is little details, you know, like you have people with amazing, for example, amazing body structure and even technique, but they don't have the capacity of reading some movement without the ball, off the ball, or they don't have the right technique from really close from the goal or little things. So once again, you know, you realize that the team is important, but the individual part and to understanding and analyzing the person, analyzing the type of player you have in front of you is important. So yes, we sent several players during the year because some of them they came out. They are not all of them stable, but right now there is one of them, Gideon. He played in the under 20. He played this summer against Spain. They beat Spain actually. Yes, I believe that actually Ghana is is a national team who always is in the World Cup and they have even talent. But I really believe they could be. I would not be surprised if in the future they appear in quarterfinals, semifinals of the World Cup. I think just need the right moment for and maybe to give more credit to some players, maybe to be a little bit more patient with the players, because that's what I felt that many times in Ghana I saw one player the first day, I did not like the player, but with the time you start to see, oh, I understand why they bring this player.
Right.
You know, because I think African player especially, the way they play is not the way you will scout a player in the countries that are nearby by Spain. You know, like maybe you're looking for the certain way of touching the ball and I don't know the passing, but of course the ground, like the grass they use for playing many times is not the best one, so the quality of the pass is going to be different. So you cannot look on that, you need to look at other things, and you need to imagine them. Or when you go to a good field, no, AstroTurf or natural one, to see who is adjusting like really good, right? Because in my time there, we play some friendly matches with the national team of Ghana with the under 20, and sometimes you go to better quality pitches like they have in the training center of the federation, and some players even they surprise, no, like that we are better than than usually, right? So you start to see that many of them actually is just the condition, no? If you look even in the European football, what is the biggest change for the last 30 years? I would say is the improvement of the pitch. it's incredible the level of quality of grass they have. The stadiums nowadays and the training centers, I mean, I think is one of the biggest investment right now of the big clubs. So you can see that, you don't need to be so tough in many aspects because they will get that, And actually, one of our biggest success last year was to send one player to see this league with 18 years old, and he's doing well. And one of other players who was their center back, probably he's going to go to France. So it means a lot to me that the players, besides of results and finish the league well and everything what we have done, also we can give them an exit and we can give them a recognition, like to pay back what the effort they did, because sometimes these guys, if you ask them to train in any condition, they will do that, and that's what I love of them, and that's what I hope that when they will get to better conditions, like they will not give up because all what they pass through. I have a lot of respect for them. I have a huge respect for them.
You've played a significant role in enhancing their career, so I'm sure they'd be ever so grateful for that. But you also spoke quite a lot about talent identification, scouting. Now you're skilled at developing a club scouting structure. So what does your usual scouting structure look like?
Well, I think the first thing is to understand like which competitions they are playing around you, more or less what is the level, but neither to get so focused on that, because I think depends of the country, is more evidence that the one who's playing in higher level, you have a higher level, but in many of these countries like Ghana, for example, I would say not always, not always. So in Ghana, for example, when I scout, I went to see a lot of matches of the national fourth league, let's say, because there is very young players, and players they play with players older than them, like this. So I would say first of all is like to see a lot of matches, a lot of competitions, and after you detect a player or some group of players that they can be good, I think you need to see them in different conditions. Sometimes you get yourself a little bit, like you try to cheat yourself and try to think that you find something amazing, but you need to see this amazingness for 5 matches in different conditions about things that are better, more physical, less physical, and then you start to see the behavior of the player. When the match is easy, when the match is difficult, when the match is really tactical or very physical. After that, I think the approach is like to sit down and in some countries to talk with their parents, but in some countries to talk through the agent that is not always a relative.
Right.
So after that, you need to see what is the understanding of the player. I mean, like you can see guys that they are very adaptable. You can see, like, for example, even in Ghana, because of the cultural thing, some guys they froze when they see you talk to them and they like, this guy from Spain and I don't know what, and they froze. And there are some of them you can see the way they express themselves, the word, and you can imagine if this guy in 10 minutes he can adapt to talk to me, he just met me. Probably if I, the day of tomorrow, if I bring him somewhere out from here, he can do the same because it's in his character. And I would say after this conversation, it's always like to present a project for the family or for the agent. Like most of them depends.
Yes.
Even I would say it is universal. Most of the people they want his player or his son.
They want to see a future.
Yeah, but they want the future tomorrow. They want you to tell them that in 1 year he will sign in whatever the club it is. But so I think you need to sometimes put the right timing, and especially with the young players, I would say this is universal also. I think because they want to run, you need to make them understand that sometimes running is not the fastest way to arrive somewhere. It happened even to me as a coach. Sometimes you can get frustrated because you don't get the right opportunities, or because you don't feel that you are where you should be, or all these stories that we can make in our mind. But I think like one of the biggest strength in life is like to be resilient through difficulties, not tolerant to this frustration that you can have. So with players, I think that's why it's important to give them a vision of 4, 3, 5 years of what is the project. First of all, and it happened, I think, in many places, you need to understand the player. You need to explain to the player why you choose this player. Because most of them, they will tell you a lot of things that they are banned on, and the agent or the people who surround the player, they will tell you, he need to improve this, he need to improve that. No, but the reason why he's player, and probably he's going to be a pro player, is these ones. There is 2, 3 things that he's very good at. So we cannot lose this one. So I think with the player is to detect his talent, to protect his talent, I would say, because sometimes in coaching, the thing, it's a critic that I do to us as a coach. Like, we want the things in a certain way, and sometimes instead to push the player, what we make is to delete the quality of the player. So we need to be very careful and to protect the natural talent.
Capabilities, the supreme natural capabilities. Yes.
And so from that, the plan depends. If you scout a player with 14, the plan can be like for 4 years. You can see some difficulties. For example, some players have difficulties with nutrition side, so you need to look for people who can guide them in that way, because if not, today he's playing well, but tomorrow he will have a lot of issues. Then you need to try to give them a training, but also some information out from the training, as the understanding of the game is growing more. Because I think first of all, the most important is the experience, no? But I think after that, it helps a lot to sit down and discuss with the player, and to have not an everyday conversation, because you don't want to ban the players, but to see. And if you can have, you can have a record of the matches, of the trainings and the things, I think is the most powerful thing. Because if we discuss, it's like you say one thing, I say one thing, we imagine that happened like this, that happened like that. I think the video put the things in the right place. So sometimes even you can be less hard in the critic, no? Because no one likes to hear all the time like someone saying you did wrong, this. So sometimes it's enough to click the play button and let him watch, and this self-feedback, I think, is important. So I would say through the period of 4 years, you can take the player, give an adaptation to the player, like a season for adaptation to your methodology, or training methodology, your communication. And then if this first year you do in a right way, I think everything turns easy. Because then when the player buys your way of communicating, your way of leadership, of training, he will demand more of this. I think this is the point, that if you conquer, let's say, the player, he will want more. Actually, in the future, probably he will demand the same things. Because I think that's why in Portugal, I told you that the players, they were very demanding, because the coaches they have before, they give them a lot, so they want the same from you.
A good insight on identifying the talent as well as developing the talent. And my channel has got a lot of Indian viewers, Indian football viewers. So at your Lebanese club, you have worked as an assistant coach to Paulo, and Paulo has been the head coach of an Indian I-League club called Aizawl FC. So can you tell us more of what it is like working with him? What are his methods? What's his style?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, I would say that I have some references of India because of Paulo, especially. So he's a very, very focused man and coach in the game. No, I think each coach have his own sensibility. Some people are more through the tactical side, to the motivational side, or I think Paulo is very good on decision making, which is, I think, is sometimes that people don't value. Like, it seems like little details that don't make the difference, but I think this is the key point of him. I think his principles or his core of his training is the intensity. No matter what we're doing, but it should be intense. And then I will set a very good coach using the leadership in a way that sometimes he will say things, sometimes he will keep some silence, but the silence are not, are not a sort of weakness or something like this. Is really a silence that are really important. If I will say something that I learned with him, is that you cannot fight all the everything, and you need to be really focused. This is what I think is a word that describes him very well. Focus. I think in football there's a lot of noise sometimes, no, there is a lot of people giving opinions, so in general you need to cope with the 23 25 players plus technical staff who's coming with I don't know how many ideas, the physios, the medicals, so I
Plus the
think I would
media and the fans.
yeah. So, so imagine. Yeah, so I would say that he is very focused in the way he understands the football. He's very demanding in terms of that the training should be intense, and it should not be fatigued by fatigue. No, like sometimes people they like to feel tired, but I think he wants certain kind of things. And I would say that if the targets of the training are you reach the target of the training, he would not like be doing training by training. I mean, if we reach what we want, we finish, we go, we rest. I think that the resting side also very important for him. And well, talking a little bit about India because it's your country, he always mentioned a lot India as a part of his career, no, as a part of his development, and 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 his words to the Indian players and to the India as a country was really good. Even myself, I was sometimes think like it could be a good option, no, to coach in India because I have a good reference through his words.
With the knowledge you have of so many countries and all that stuff, I'm sure, I really hope one day you can actually coach in India. And coming back to you, just before we end this, now with such rich experience and so much knowledge of different cultures, what is your next plan now as a coach, as a person? What are your future plans?
Well, right now I'm in Emirates. I'm in the United Emirates. I'm in Dubai. I'm here coming to have some meetings, to have some networking. Watch also the Premier League and the second league of the Emirates. My plans in short term is to come back to coaching as fast as I can,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day that's what I love. But it's true that it's been a nice period because it's not too long. It's been on 1 month and a half that I'm not active, but it's been a period where I met a lot of people. Even I have the chance now today to meet you. So what is definitely, I mean, I have some interactions in Africa, even in Asia. What is definitely that I will come back to training soon, probably. Um, and that I think even this period right now was very rich in terms of the interactions I have with people, and even the self-reflect of what I have done, what did work, what it does not work, how I want to bring my coaching. I still like young and not young. I mean, I'm 32, just like a few months ago. So yes, right now I feel like many things or many pieces of the puzzle that they match much more than when I was in the training all day and moving up and down. So yes, I feel, or I have the intention of be back coaching. The country right now I cannot know. It's true that I have contacts several countries through agents and through people who know me.
Yeah.
But yes, hopefully one day it will be India,
Mhm.
and we can meet face to face and make the same interview, but
Yes,
but
yes.
in the same.
Yes, absolutely. I really wish you luck with that. Final question before we end. What is your advice to all the young developing coaches?
My advice is like don't being in like in a comfort zone, as you mentioned before, like complacency of thinking that you know. I think like we have all of us, we have a little bit this ego, not as coaches, but in general people, all of us, we see maybe better than we are sometimes. And I think it's important in football and in life to humble yourself sometimes and to say, probably there are people who are doing things better than me, probably somewhere else. There are the answers of the questions I have. No, before the interview we have, I was watching here a training of a German team of Leipzig.
Okay.
And why I do that? Because not because the exercise they do it I never have done before, but it's like even I look at the repetition, the duration, like I'm trying to be critical with what I see, I try to imagine what is the target. If I see what to see a match in the stadium, I feel the same. I try to reflect what you will do now if you will be not the coach who's winning. Now try to think you are the coach who is losing. So I think of this self-critic area is quite good, because in football many times we think because the game have a lot of years and everything is done and everything. I don't think so.
Yeah, constantly.
I think we self-critic and even I would say more, and it's even advice to you, but to everyone in life.
Yeah,
I think sometimes we put a roof over us and we think that is not possible to do much more. And I really believe that sometimes the difference to me, to someone who reach more, or like whatever, is shorter than I think. It's
that's
shorter
why,
than I think.
that's why the famous saying, coaches are lifelong students of the game. Yes. But yeah, this was quite an insightful chat. Definitely a lot to take away from this. And I'm really grateful that you have taken so much time out, because while you may not be actively coaching, it's still, I'm grateful that you have decided to take time out after watching a training session. It was really good fun. And I thank you, Sven, for being a part of this podcast.
Thank you so much to you, Ryan. I hope all the success in this project, and hopefully we can have another chat. Not me being not training, that with actually training, and hopefully even in face to face in India. Hopefully.
Hopefully, I really hope that that day comes soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ryan.